Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I used to spend hours upon hours editing my photos and not enough time out with my camera actually practicing photography. And a goal of mine nowadays is basically to have as little work to do in post as possible. Obviously, when I first started photography, the raw files coming out of my camera were not particularly that good, so that's part of why I used to spend so much time editing. However, it took me way too long to realize that if you get your raw file as close as possible to the finished result that you want in camera, then you really don't have to do that much in post to complete the process. So with that out of the way, I'm going to run through some edits in Lightroom today. I've got 3 images to go through, and hopefully I'm going to demonstrate that if you've optimized your raw file in camera at the time of shooting for the end result, that you really don't have to apply that many adjustments to get to your finished photograph. I should say before I get started as well, of course, photography and editing is completely subjective. This is just my way of doing it. It's not the correct way, it's just a way. I'm going to start with the transform tool. I prefer it to the crop tool in most cases because you get a lot more control over it. We're going to click constrain crop, but this is going to be a very minor crop. I'm going to zoom in a little bit with the scale slider to about 104, 105. And then using the Y offset, I'm just going to push the frame up a bit. And there I'm happy. So if I turn on the crop tool now, we're going to see this slanted bit of brickwork in the top right hand corner here is sitting nicely on this intersection, and the bottom of the building there is sitting on the lower thirds, which I really like. Coming down into lens corrections, I'm going to turn remove chromatic aberration on, even though I don't think there is any in this image, but I feel like you might as well tick it because if there is, you're going to want to remove it. Detail, what I'm going to do to start with is bring our sharpening up to halfway, and I normally start with that and fine tune it if I need to. Radius, I'm going to increase just a bit, and detail, probably bring that up to about halfway as well. And then masking, I'm just going to hold the Alt or Option key on my keyboard, drag the masking tool until the sky is completely black, which means there's no sharpening being applied to the sky now. It's just being applied to the white portions that you can see in that image there. Okay, so let's start running through our basic adjustments, and hopefully this will demonstrate kind of how little I do. So I'm going to warm this image up just slightly because there's so much blue in that snow. I don't want it to feel like it's got a horrible color cast. So I'm going to counter that with the temperature. Highlights and shadows, I'm going to bring both of those up. Let's go about plus 12 with the highlights, and I'm mainly looking at the brickwork here. So, well, no, let's go a bit further. Let's go plus 30 with the shadows, and we're starting to see some of that detail and texture come out in the brickwork nicely there. Whites, I'm going to boost quite a bit as well to about plus 20. And basically I want this image to feel real wintry and real snowy. So I'm going to come down to color mixer, and I'm going to start working with the luminance. I typically adjust luminance first because your luminance also affects the saturation of your colors. The lighter you make your color, the less saturated it is, and the darker you make it, the more saturated it is. So starting with luminance, I feel then gives me an easier job when it comes to working with saturation, because you're actually changing the saturation with your luminance. So I'm going to bring orange up a lot. I'm going to go about plus 70, and yellows up slightly as well, plus 25. And that's mainly to bring some of this yellow color out in the brickwork, which we're going to work with in saturation in a minute as well to bring that color back. Aquas and blues, I'm going to bring up ever so slightly as well. So probably about plus 10 for each of them. I'm now going to boost the saturation of the orange and yellows because we made that color brighter, so we've lost saturation. So I'm going to bring that back now with the saturation sliders, bring them up quite a lot. And you're going to see that warm glow hitting the side of the building there now. And then blues, again, I'm going to desaturate them because I want that wintry feeling. I don't want it to have a horrible color cast. And we're almost at the end of the edit, and I think that probably already demonstrates how little I do. The last thing I'm going to do is come up to our masking panel here, and I'm going to select subject, which should hopefully pick up the whole of the brickwork in the ruined building. So let's do that, select subject. And let's have a look, and that's picked it up perfectly. It's even got this little slanted brick in the corner. And what I'm going to do here is just boost the exposure. We could bring the contrast up a little bit as well to bring a little bit more color and depth back into that subject. And that's it, guys, that's it. The edit is finished. The last thing I would do is bring this over into Photoshop and do some cleanup. I'd probably get rid of some of these patches where the snow isn't hitting down here, and this little rock in the distance as well, just to make that snow look nice and crisp, really double down on that winter feeling. So I'll throw the raw file on screen right here now, and just with that quick 5-minute editing session of adjustments, we go ahead and we get this. So nothing too over the top. For the most part, I really just want my edits to be a slight uplift of what it looked like in real life. Okay, so I'm going to move on to our second image here, which I also shot in a recent video of mine. This time I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I'm going to use an import preset here. Now I've spoken about these slightly here and there in videos on my channel. Basically, my import presets, they work like any other presets. However, they are designed to leave the majority of your basic adjustments alone. So if we look on the left here, we've got sharp boost, hazy, wash, nostalgic, cold film, some black and white ones as well. They do apply a distinct look. However, it's so minimal, but yet so crucial to my editing process. I'm going to apply my import preset called hazy. So let's click that there. And you see how that just really washes out the sky, sort of crushes the whites a little bit and gives us a really nice starting point. And if you know how you want to edit your photo, you can very quickly pick one of these import presets and run with a few more adjustments and get your images finished just so much faster. And now straight away I can jump down to my basic tab because my import preset has done most of the heavy lifting for me. So I'm going to, temperature and tint is staying the same here. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm going to bring the highlights down quite a lot. Should we go probably about 46, and we're bringing some of this blue color in the sky out and also retaining a tiny bit of detail there. Shadows I'm going to bring up because I want to reveal some more of this brickwork and texture in the foreground. So I'm going to bring the shadows up to about 25, 30-ish, like that. I don't want it to be completely like ridiculous like this and bringing every little pixel out, which, you know, if that's what you're into, then that's cool, but I'm just gonna go about plus 30 and make sure we've still got some dark portions down there for some nice contrast. So at this point, I'm now going to come and jump down into my color mixer because, again, heavy lifting has been done by the import preset. Starting with the luminance, of course, again, I'm going to bring the blues up to 45 just to kind of lighten this area up here, and then maybe drop the yellows ever so slightly to take away some of the highlights in the moss. And that's looking pretty good to me. Let's jump over to saturation, and I'm probably going to drop the blues, I think, slightly to about -25, and that's it for the saturation. There is not really that much color present in this image anyway. The biggest color is probably these bright bits of green in the foreground. So then coming back up again to our masking panel, I'm going to apply a couple of masks here. And first things first, I'm going to grab the radial gradient tool. I'm going to draw a circle here and position it right on top of that sun that's beaming through, and I'm going to try and keep it as small as possible but while covering the harsh highlight like that. And then all I'm going to do for this is to bring the temperature up, something like that, and then all of a sudden this beam that's coming through has a nice bit of warmth for it. Complete personal preference, but I think it looks a lot nicer than having that harsh light streaming through. I'm going to grab the object selection tool, which is here, and then I'm going to very vaguely paint round this, and this is normally pretty accurate, to be honest. So let's have a look at how it selects that. So it's done a real good job there. It has unfortunately painted through the middle, but that should be cool because there's nothing behind there other than sort of white space. So what I'm going to do here is essentially try and make this blend in with the rest of the photo. So I'm going to drop the blacks, I'm going to bring the highlights up, the whites up, and the contrast up a bit as well. So if we turn that mask on and off, can you see how that just kind of allows it to sit back in line with the rest of the image? So if we throw the raw file up on the screen here and then the edited image, and again that was applying my import preset, running through the basic tab, hue, saturation, luminance, and a couple of masks, and we're done. Okay, moving over to our last image here. This was another recent video of mine when I shot this. I'm going to again here, select my hazy import preset, and watch how this deals with the sky here. Beautiful, love that. Off, on, fantastic. I love these really bright filmic blue skies that are pastel and desaturated. Absolutely love that look. So let's go in with our crop tool now and fix this. So the horizon's pretty slanted, so that's better. And then I'm going to bring it across from the left a little bit to about there. So again, jumping straight down to our basic adjustments, I'm going to go ahead and drop the highlights to probably halfway. And what I'm looking at here, really, I'm trying to ignore the sky and look at the subject. The subject looks a bit bright to me, and I can deal with bringing that sky back up later on. So I'm going to drop the highlights to about -50. Shadows I'm going to bring up as well to bring some of them lobster pots out. Again, I'm not going like this so that it's like HDR, about +48 like that. And then this is where I'm going to bring that sky back from where we dropped the highlights. So blues, let's bring the blues up to 45, aquas up a little bit as well. I think I'm happy. I'm going to make one mask adjustment again in this, and I'm going to go to select subject, and hopefully it's going to pick up the building, because the building is the subject that's in focus. The lobster pots are out of focus, so it shouldn't pick those up. So let's have a look. Yeah, lovely. It has selected a bit of the elements on the wall and stuff, but that's okay. So I'm going to warm that up ever so slightly. 6 or 5, and that looks good. If we turn that off and on, you see how that just gives it a bit of warmth and makes it feel a bit more inviting. I don't know. This is just what my eyes see and think. I'm happy. So let's throw up the raw file for that one, and then the edited finished image with the cleanup done inside Photoshop. So there we go. 3 photos edited up nice and quickly, very minimal, and just sort of bringing them up a little bit, a tier up from the raw file. You know, I just like these edits to be nice, minimal and quick. And also, if you pull that off, I think that's a great testament to where you are with your photography as well, because the less you're having to do in the editing suite, in my opinion, leans towards your images being, you know, in line with what you want them to be. So that's going to wrap up this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something, and hopefully demonstrated how quickly and how little you need to do to images. Of course, again, all personal preference. If you're somebody that loves spending hours editing, then don't let me tell you not to do that. And thank you so much for watching. As always, I'll see you in the next one.